All right, so we're in our Student Companion Notebook, Lesson 8-5. That's page 242. So let's get started. Obviously, we start with a review, and we're going to review the distributed property. So the distributed property means everything on the outside of my parenthesis gets multiplied to everything on the inside of my parenthesis. So I'm going to look at y times y plus 2, and I'm going to multiply y, and I'm going to get y squared and then 2y. So I'm going to connect that line down to y squared plus 2y. The same thing here. I'm going to take this 2y and I'm going to multiply 2y times y and 2. I'm going to do the same thing with this negative 1. It's got to be multiplied to the y plus 2. So that line is going to be drawn down here. Still distributed property. This is going to be multiplied to all three of these. So that'll be y cubed plus 3y squared minus 6y. And then this is negative 1, y plus 2. And you're going to go right there. Negative 1 times y is going to be a negative y. And then minus 2, because it basically just changed your signs. So cross out the expressions that are not in standard form. Remember, standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. 3 terms squared, 1x, none. This is parentheses, so not the case. There's a distributive property, so not the case. This one is in the form because, sometimes when we have difference of squares, there is no middle term. So that does qualify as standard form. So our vocab word is trinomial, poly meaning many, mono meaning one, bi meaning two, tri means three. So a trinomial is a polynomial that has 3 terms. They have to be separated by plus or minus signs. And this is an example of a trinomial. So it says, Jay says that this expression is a trinomial. Why is it not true? Well, it's not true because as you could see, I circled the terms. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So a trinomial has 3. This expression has 4 terms. On the bottom, it wants us simply to circle the trinomials. And I can tell you that this has 3, this has 3, this has 3. This one only has 2, 2, and this one has 4. So these 3 are going to be circled, and that's it. Right, so we're going to turn the page to 243. Again, it's factoring trinomials. So this is where we made our x when we learned it in class, right? So here, the multiply term goes on top, the add term goes on the bottom. And here's where we figured out our factors. We kind of call this like a T-chart because if we do this, it's factors that multiply to equal 24, add together. In this case, we need it to equal 11. So we list the factors, 1 and 24. When I add them, they're 25. 2 and 12. When I add them, it's 14. In this way, we can figure out 3 and 8. When I add them, it's 11. Ding, 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 right? We need it to be 11. So this would be the factors that we need to put here. Again, you know that these 2 factors are what's going to roll into this trinomial. So I can check that answer using FOIL, right? R plus 3, R plus 8. R times R is R squared plus 8R plus 3R plus 24. So right there, we know that we did our math right and that our answer is correct. So when we break that down, we clearly see that if we have y squared minus 6y plus 8, I need to find the factors that add. Sum means add to negative 6, right? And then multiply to equal 8. So at least one of the factors must add to negative 6. One of them has to be negative. The 2 factors that multiply to 8, both must be negative for this to be positive, right? So now we're figuring out the signs. Remember that you have, if in my trinomial, I have a negative and a positive, inside my parentheses will be negative, negative. If in my trinomial, it's positive, positive, in my parentheses, both will be positive. If in my trinomial I have negative, negative, One will be negative, one will be positive. And the same go for if I have a positive and a negative. One factor has to be positive, one has to be negative. And remember that the order of these do not matter, okay? So I'm going to circle the factors of 8 that add to negative 6. Well, if I multiply negative 2 and negative 4, I get a positive 8. And if I add them, I get a negative 6. So you know, then it's y minus 2, y minus 4. I can FOIL it. Y squared minus 4y minus 2y plus 8. I combine these two middle terms, and I get y squared minus 6y plus 8. And yes, indeed, that checks out. Okay, so that is the basics of factoring trinomials. Good luck on the quiz.